So in case you missed it, From Software and Bandai Namco Ninja dropped an event for Nightreign that just came out a few hours ago called Everdark Sovereign. That is essentially a powered-up version of one of the bosses from Elden Ring Nightreign that has special rewards, its own vendor, and things like that. And it seems like from the post that they put out on the Bandai Namco website that they're going to have 3 bosses, like one that runs this week, one that runs the following week, and one that runs the week after. So they're going to be limited, like rotating between these 3 bosses, and that some of the other bosses will be added at a later date. It doesn't seem like they're quite ready to go. And I think this pretty much puts to bed any doubt that Nightreign isn't a live service game. This is something a live service game would do. Adding content later is something a live service game would do. And this is totally fine with me, honestly. I think I just wish that they hadn't said it wasn't a live service game when we can all clearly tell that it is. And really my biggest thing from Nightreign, there are a couple quality of life things that I would love from the game, which I'll probably go to in another video. But I just want more content for this game, so I'm happy to have this event. So let's get into what it is. So getting into the event itself, there is a powered version of Adel, Baron of Night, or Gaping Jaws I just mentioned. And this fight is very difficult. If you don't want spoilers to this fight, skip ahead to like the next part. But I'm going to be talking about this fight for a second, so if you don't want to know what it's like, skip ahead to the time shown on the screen. But basically, this fight is like starts in phase 2 for Adel, Baron of Night. Like you start in phase 2 with lightning everywhere. He's super aggressive from the very get-go. And then about halfway through his health bar, 60% through his health bar, something like that, he summons a huge tornado where if you're outside of it, you continuously take damage and you have to Spirit Spring inside the tornado and continue to fight him inside this tornado. And what this does is it shrinks the arena down to like half the size or even smaller than that, maybe a third of the size. So you're fighting him in a much more contained space, which is very difficult because you can't run far away when he does his big lightning AoE very easily. And there's no just like backing away, you know, to get away from him. So it can be very, very difficult. He does a lot of damage. And it also seems like he moves more erratically than he did before. This may be just my own perception, but he's definitely much more challenging than previous. And some tips about this fight, assuming that the resistances on this boss are the same as the base version, for the sake of argument. If you have any information that is different than this, please let me know. But this boss resists both fire and lightning and is weak to poison, which interrupts him and makes him cough out the poison. He also resists bleed heavily, so focusing on poison, frostbite, and rot are valid strategies. And if you're a revenant out there playing, you should be aiming for physical damage spells or holy damage spells to avoid those heavy resistances to help speed up this fight. And again, this is of course assuming that the resistances are the same as they were. If they're different, then this changes a little bit, and you know, you can let me know in the comments. So once you finish defeating this guy once, you unlock a new currency and you unlock a new vendor and Round Table Hold. This guy's located in the shore area. And here at this vendor, you can reset your Round Table Hold's appearance to what it was at the beginning of the game if you've already, you know, changed the way it looks based on completing bosses. You can change to a specific Shifting Earth event if you want. If you like a specific Shifting Earth, like a lot of people like the Rot event because there's a lot of good bosses and Rot weapons are very strong against Night Lords. So that's pretty good. Or if maybe you're missing like a trophy from doing one of these events, you can do it. You can also repair your Cracked Witch's Brooch if you've done the Guardian quest line and you pick the one outcome that gives you that and repairs it to the regular version. As far as I know, this is just a visual appearance and lore thing. Like the effects seem to be exactly the same. And you can buy new relic combinations, like the instruments that give you different colored relic combinations. There are 2 new ones for each Night Fair, so that allows for more variation in terms of relics you can use, which is fantastic. There are also brand new relics. Some of them are very strong for certain characters. I'm going to go through those in a second. And you can also get skins that are currently obtainable with Merc in the game. You can buy them there with this instead if you'd prefer. I think my guess is that over time they're probably going to add new skins for these events that, you know, are like event-only skins. I would suspect that's probably likely, and they'll probably add new relic combinations or new relics over time as these events continue, assuming they continue into the future as well. So the first one is the Dark Knight of the Baron. This is the unique one you get from defeating him. It focuses on improving your critical hits and giving you runes back when you critical hit. The +1 is 20% increase, the regular one is 15% increase, and critical hits earn runes is 300 runes. That's terrible. But the other two are nice if you're going for a critical hit focused build. You can stack these up to get a lot of damage. I would just say that I think a lot of characters are probably not going to sacrifice other bonuses for this unless they're going for a very specialized build. But characters that might use this might be Executor. He gets a lot of crits. Raider gets a lot of crits, and Duchess gets a lot of crits as well. And typically she has a dagger that has a higher crit rating on it. So she's going to be going for crits a lot of times as well. So you might use that for any of those builds, but you probably specialize in critical hits if you're going to use it. So the next relic is for Wilder. It adds fire to his ultimate art, which any good Wilder will run. It changes his starting armament skill to Flaming Strike, which will buff his weapon with fire. And it gives him fire attack power up +2, which increases his fire damage by 6.5%. This looks a lot better on paper than it actually is. I don't know how much of the ultimate art is fire and how much is physical. I know there is a good amount of fire damage in there, obviously from the fire being on the ground, so that will benefit that. But also, if you use the relic that allows Wilder to follow up with the attack with a great sword and that coats his sword in flame, it will override the buff from Flaming Strike. So this looks a lot better on paper than it is actually in practice, unfortunately. So the next relic is for Guardian. It has reflect a portion of damage received when ability is activated. This is almost a must for any good Guardian, so that's good. Arc Gauge charge from successfully guarding is good, and Endurance gives you more stamina to block with. The issue with this, though, is it's going to compete against your Cracked Witch's Brooch or your Witch's Brooch because that has this bonus on it and a couple other good bonuses like Vigor and Healing when you use your ultimate, when you use the hold down version of it. But it is a different color, which allows you to use a different combination of relics if you have other good relics, so that is very useful. The next relic for Duchess makes her more difficult to spot and silences her footsteps after landing a critical hit from behind, which is okay. Proved critical hits increase her critical hit damage by 15%, and character skill cooldown reduction reduces the reduction on her character skill by, I think it's 10%. Duchesses in general have like basically a setup that's already meta, so I don't expect them to really use this because it just probably won't fit into the way that they're playing stacking poison and frostbite, especially when they're facing this boss that's, can be poisoned and frostbite. I don't expect either of them to remove either one of those relics in order to slot this in there. So the next relic is for Recluse. Max FP up with +3 staves equipped gives her 50 FP when she has 3 of these. She'll almost always have 3 staves at some point in her run, and at level 2, this is actually a 50% increase to her FP, and at level 15, it's like a 25% increase to her FP, so that's pretty strong. The max FP permanently increased after releasing a Sorcerer's Rise mechanism is, I think it's like 18% increase to FP. So this is going to be stronger the further into the run that you go. If by level 15, if you make it to level 15, this will be about somewhere between like 35 and 40 FP, so it's not as much as the other one, but it still gives you a lot. And magic attack power up increases her magic damage by 4.5%. So overall, it's a very strong relic for Recluse, particularly if you don't have a good combination of relics. For the Iron Eye relic, the ultimate art will apply 300 poison buildup to the primary target of the ultimate, which could be pretty good in some cases, but it's not that great in my opinion, especially if you already have like poison on your bow or another party member in your party already has poison, which happens a lot of times if you have like an Executor or Duchess in your group. But it does increase your attack power by 10% against poison-afflicted enemies. And Ultimate Art Gauge +3 increases the speed that your Ultimate Art Gauge increases by 10% while you're in combat. So these aren't terrible for an Iron Eye, but I don't know how many Iron Eyes will use this. I think if you probably have bad relics, you would, but otherwise, I don't see them subbing this out. Maybe if they're facing the Gaping Jaw boss, because you can poison it. And it doesn't seem like he spits his poison out as frequently, or I haven't really seen him spit it like he does normally in the fight. So moving on to Raider's relic, it makes it so the duration of his ultimate art is extended. This can be annoying and good. That means that the passive effect is going to remain longer. That helps increase your damage and stuff like that. The improved Colossal Weapon attack power is a 6% increase with Colossal Weapons. So that's really good. He uses Colossal Weapons a lot, and the Endurance gives him +6 stamina. So I'm sure this will find its way into certain Raider builds as well, depending on what relics they have. Next is for Revenant. This gives you a buff to your allies and family or your summons when you use your ultimate art. This is probably good for a lot of Revenants. And it also has items confer effect to nearby allies. This also applies to your summons. So if you like pop, Turtleneck or something, they will gain stamina recovery. Or if you pop some like Boiled Crab, they'll gain physical damage, protection, etc. And Starlight Shard in your possession allows you to, replenish your FP a couple of times before you, have to like go hit a Site of Grace, which can be nice for a Revenant because they don't have a way of recovering FP the way Recluse does. But overall, I'm not sure this is a very strong relic. If you're trying to like focus on a particular play style, it's not great. It's just like a good all-around relic that might find its way into some builds, but I don't think too many meta Revenants are going to run this. Okay, for the Executor Relic, he has 8% increased attack power while he's got his Cursed Sword out, but when he attacks, it takes 10 HP from him. He needs all the attack power he can get when his Cursed Sword is out, honestly, because it does so little damage later in the game. He will gain 8 HP back every time he deflects, though, so he can replenish most of this by deflecting, and each time that he successfully deflects, he will also increase his ultimate art gauge by 1%. So it's not a bad relic overall, but I think this is probably one of those you'd run on a solo Executor. I don't think you would run it in a group. Next is an all-purpose relic that gives you health back once you get below 20% HP. It's like 0.5% of your max HP plus 1 to you and all nearby allies. And it also gives you a plus 25% damage negation when you're below 20% health. And plus 3 vigor is 60 HP. So this is good probably for newer players, but generally speaking, you're not trying to stay at low HP, so this effect shouldn't last very long. The only scenario I can think of where it'd be useful is if you're fighting this event boss, for instance, and your all guys are all out of flasks. It might help you get pushed through the end portion of it. But if you had other relics that are better, in terms of damage, you might not even be in that situation to begin with. The next relic is another general one. It improves stance breaking when two-handing by 7%, so it's going to give you more stance damage if you're two-handing. This is probably most useful on a raider that's using a big weapon, or maybe on a wilder that's two-handing their greatsword, but you're probably not going to use it at any instance outside of that. It doesn't apply to bows, so it's not going to apply to Iron Eye. Additionally, you have improved initial standard attack. This is the first attack of your R1 chain is going to be boosted by 13%, and this is probably best on a raider because they tend to just swing through hits, and this can prevent them from being interrupted. Next is another general all-purpose relic that improves stance breaking when wielding 2 armaments. This is when you are power stancing 2 weapons. And this doesn't include a shield, so if you're a guardian, this doesn't apply to you. It's going to be if you're using 2 great swords or 2 colossal weapons or 2 great hammers or whatever 2 weapons that you're doing, that's going to improve your stance breaking. So this could be good on a Executor who's wielding 2 katanas, or a raider that's wielding 2 large armaments, or even on a wilder that's wielding 2 great swords. The stamina recovers with each successful attack is plus 2 stamina back with each attack that connects. This is any form of damage to my knowledge, so if you're dual wielding and you hit twice with, if the attack hits at the same time, it should give you 4 stamina back, which is quite nice, and endurance gives you plus 6 stamina. So this is pretty much good for melee characters that are dual wielding. Could actually even be good for Revenant if you're using her claws as well. The next one increases your attack power permanently for each Everjail prisoner you defeated. This is 5% per Everjail. This doesn't stack, so you can't put 3 of these buffs on your relics, but if you have one, it's going to give you 5% for each Everjail you clear. I normally clear about 3 or 4 Everjails per run, so this can actually get up to about 15-20% in a good run. Even if it's 10%, it's still better than most buffs out there, so this is arguably the strongest single buff that you can get in terms of damage output in the game. Treasure marked on map will show you where some of the chests are on the map so you can go loot them for extra loot, and you also start with a stone sword key so you can open a Everjail more quickly, allowing you to get that increase in damage earlier in the run. This is pretty much just good on any character, really. And lastly, the last relic here basically gives you 6 Starlight Shards at the start of an expedition so that you can just regain FP. And this is honestly good for a Recluse, it's good for a Revenant, but it's also good for any other character that has low FP, that has a good weapon skill they like. If you're using Rivers of Blood on Executor, this could be great for you if you know you're going to get it, or maybe you're going to look out for a weapon with a good weapon skill and you want to be able to use it religiously. It could be good for you as well. It's not the strongest thing in the game because you can pick up a lot of Starlight Shards, particularly if you go to any of the rises. But if you're someone who just wants to be able to go ham from the beginning, it could be fun. And then after that, you can actually buy a random large relic, one that has 3 buffs, for 5 of the currency as well, in order to guarantee that it's a large one. So at some point, if you get all the things you want, you may be buying those. And then, as I mentioned, you can get the skins that are currently already in the game for the currency here as well, if you'd prefer, if there are some you don't have. The most expensive ones are the most amount of currency, and obviously the cheaper ones are cheaper. So this is another way, if you want to run the event as much as possible while it's out, you can get all these doing that, which is fantastic. So that wraps up our video on the Everdark Sovereign event, the first one being Adel, Baron of Night, and this is a very fun boss in my opinion. and I can't wait to see how the other bosses shape up and like what their boss battles are like. We'll be playing using the Fextra password all weekend, trying to get people through this. So if you need help, make sure you use that FEXTRA all caps. And I want to know what you guys think of this. Are you happy to have more content? Are you a little bit confused about what's happening? Let me know in the comments below.